So much for being quiet.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
Welcome to another episode of Bitch I Ain't Scared.
Bitch, I ain't scared.
How are you, Nate?
I'm great, actually. Not that anything too wild has happened, but no, I'm doing great. I actually wanted to share something with you. So my aunt recommended this book series to me years ago, like 3 years ago. And I'm a terrible person, so I haven't read it yet. It's called A Discovery of Witches. Have you ever heard of this?
Today I did.
Today you did, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, like, as soon as the first book came out in 2011, they already snatched up the film rights. And I think Warner Brothers was going to make a movie. But that obviously hasn't happened. And now today they're talking about a TV series.
Yes,
And
that's what I read about today.
I'm excited because if you don't know who Matthew Good is, get your life together. Caucasian men don't usually have this power over me, but he does. I don't know what it is. He's gorgeous, and he's a great actor.
Chap. Yes.
And Teresa Palmer, she's a great actress, so they're playing the two leads. For those of you who don't know what it's about, A Discovery of Witches, it's about this woman, I can't remember her name, but it's Diana, and she's a professor at Oxford, like alchemical history. That's as close as I can get off the top of my head. And then she somehow summons this long lost scroll to her, and she realizes she has witch blood in her heritage. So she embraces her magical side and she becomes a witch. But she's also a scientist. And then, she falls in love with the vampire. I know. There's all these vampire love story things going on. But this one actually sounds really, really good to me. And it's a trilogy. There's 3 books. So for those of you out there who love reading, check out the books. I myself need to check out the books. And I'm recommending them because my aunt Candida, she's a reader. She reads all kinds of things, and she's a very smart woman, so I trust her recommendations. So I think you're safe if you want to check these books out. And the series, beyond the casting and that it's a TV show, don't know much about it yet, but I'm looking forward to this. So now I have to read these books before this show comes out.
Yes, I would have to look up if they've chosen a channel or station to put it on yet. That to me will give me more of an indication of what to expect.
Right, yeah.
I'm reading the plot and it sounds very Downton Abbey. I don't know why. I get this feeling that it's going to be like this Dark Souls sort of Downton Abbey sort of vibe where it's more modern and less horrific and kind of serious, maybe a little soap opera-ish. It's just the fact that one's a witch and one's a vampire, but I don't know if there's going to be like tons of blood and death and mystery. I'm thinking it's more of a love story.
I think it's probably love story, but I think more like what you said, mystery. So it's more of maybe a thriller aspect, but I don't think so. I think it's like a historical fantasy, which I really love that. I love historical fiction. So whenever you weave in actual historical events, like what was it, the X-Men movie where they were at the missile crisis in Cuba, I like stuff like that. I think it's entertaining, but I'm looking forward to it. I've stated before and I'll say it again, I love witches.
Witches, exactly. Yeah, it also deserves a good look.
So I will overlook the vampire element, especially since it's Matthew Good. I don't care. They can put him in whatever and I'll be happy.
I just know that in the past, regardless of the genre, whether it's a family comedy or sort of a lighthearted horror series or maybe a full-blown, it's like sometimes these monster shows get a very bad rap or people just don't put enough effort into them for them to succeed.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes a channel could make a difference, but there was The Witches of East End. It was more towards a woman's sort of audience, but I thought that show was actually pretty good, and had they put just a little bit more effort to grab more people, that show could have succeeded. I mean, I can even go to Salem. I like the first season, and I do plan on finishing that series. But again, it just seems that these shows are just geared towards one specific type of audience, and I'm wondering exactly what type of audience this is going to attract.
I think that this, like you said, I think that's a good example of Downton Abbey. I think people who enjoy that will probably enjoy it. Outlander fans.
Okay, yeah.
My aunt is also, that's her favorite series, her book series, and she loves the show. So I think people who like that, people who are readers, I think will enjoy this.
Okay. I'm getting more sense of it now.
I'm sure that they will like do something because it's going to be a TV show, so they have to sort of like put their feelers out to bring other people in. Like you said, Witches of East End, I didn't watch it, but most people that I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I loved it. My sister,
I thought it was great.
She loved it. I just haven't watched it, and maybe because it gave me the Charmed vibe, and Charmed sort of let me down.
Okay,
the
fair
first
enough.
3 seasons,
Charmed, but
I love the first 3 seasons, but then that 4th season, I just kind of fell off because I was like, I saw where the change happened, where it was like the power struggle within the production, and I was like, it was forced. So then they took on this very, very, very comedic and lighthearted approach, and I wasn't really into that. I like campy and self-aware stuff sometimes, like Buffy, but it was just kind of let down. So I didn't do Witches of East End, even though it sounded like Witches of Eastwick. They were trying to trick me.
I would say that East End sort of was like Point Pleasant in a way. They tried to incorporate a lot of different elements, other supernatural beings, people discovering stuff, and ironically had the same guy who was like the son of an angel or whatever. You know who I'm talking about. Her love interest in Point Pleasant. Do you remember
him?
He was in Witch End as well, because he was one of 2 brothers who were like feuding over the same woman. He turned a little evil.
That sounds like Vampire Diaries.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I didn't even watch that. And
but we'll have to like have another like TV episode or something, because there's a ton of shows out there. Like The Gates, I thought was really cool. That was ABC.
That didn't last very long.
No, it only lasted 1 season.
That's right.
It was before the Teen Wolf thing came along, and again, it was more lighthearted. Yeah. But it still had some really cool, interesting stories. And there's tons of it on Netflix too. There's lots of vampire and werewolf shows.
I've come across all of them on Netflix, which is nice. I can watch them as long as Netflix doesn't go bankrupt. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
But I should check all of them out. Oh, I should say I finally did finish True Blood.
Okay.
So I mean, real quick, all I'm gonna say is it wasn't. That last season wasn't what I would have hoped it would be. It was it was kind of like wrapping things up, but it took the whole season to just wrap things up. It wasn't like a season finale or a series finale. It was just kind of boring.
Okay.
Like there wasn't really any big conflict like the other seasons had, like the big bad. Once they took care of the vampire. I'm so sorry, guys, if you haven't watched the last season. I'm going to talk about a couple spoilers. I won't do too big, but so yeah, once they eradicated the immediate threat, which was the Hep V vampires, it was just like, okay.
But you saw what happened with Tara.
I saw what happened with Tara, and I didn't like the way they did that.
Okay, so after seeing it, because I remember you read about it, but now seeing it...
No, my friend told me about it on accident.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I really thought, I think my friend lied to me to like surprise me. Because the way they did it, whenever you kill someone off screen, that's always suspect to me. I'm like, no, I don't believe this bullshit. You did the same thing to me in Scream 3. We don't do that, okay? You don't kill people off screen. So I just kind of was hoping. I was like, maybe her mother was just so traumatized. She thought she saw something, but she didn't, and they dragged Tara off somewhere, and she's alive. But then they gave me that fucking throwaway episode where she's like, I felt Tara die, the true death. And I'm like, that's all I'm going to get? That's it? I didn't like it.
You know what's funny? I honestly thought that her mom not only came to a truce, but they faked her death. Like, she was playing the whole time. And I would, like, the rest of the time, I was like, please just come out of nowhere. Your mom was, like, playing a thing, and she made everybody think. She tried to... I was so... like trying to like
I really wanted them to do something else,
and that would have been a really cool thing for her mom to do too, because she was always involved, but she never had a moment where it was just like, you go girl. And I was just praying that's what they were doing. But
the whole series, they just did Tara wrong, and I was like, really, you couldn't give her anything? So, and also, and one more spoiler, and then I'll stop. They fucking killed Alcide.
Yeah.
And
in such a quick way. I mean, I don't even think
it was just so like, terrible. I was like, and I was like doing something while I was watching it, and then I was like, oh God, what's happening? What the
I think we have to remember that this is not his story. And that's the thing about it, is that it is about Sookie, and like, not to say that with him in the story she wouldn't have been happy, but it's not his story. And I don't know, I may have to rewatch it, but I think there is a significant reason why he had to go, and it wasn't just for shock value. I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt for most of these characters, but I don't think it was needed at the end of the day.
I don't think it was needed.
No.
And honestly, and I haven't read the books, so I don't know how closely this follows the books.
Yeah.
You know, I know that Lafayette was supposed to be dead at the end of the first book. And he was just so popular, thank God. But it might have had a little more of an impact, because right before that she's saying, I love him, but I know he loves me more, and I feel so bad. And I wish that scene would have gone different, when she was like, you know what, my God, I love him. I really love him. I might be like wishy-washy sometimes because I don't know how I feel about things, but I'm realizing in this moment I love him, and I can't wait to be with him. And then he died. That would have been like an impact. But her just being like, I'm on the fence, you know, I don't think I deserve him, and yeah, he loves me, but I don't love him that much. And then he's dead, and it's like, you don't give a shit about him anyway, so let's move on.
There were a couple of articles that I did read about the ending of that, and that they were still sort of promoting this idea that people, mostly women, aren't happy unless they're with someone, or they go towards like the idea of being married to somebody. And so that ending, not to say that True Blood shouldn't have had a happy ending, but it's just more of this like, my life's complete because I'm in a marriage, or I'm in a, you know, inclusive relationship and stuff. And not all of them needed to be in a coupling. That's the thing. And
I would have preferred that Sookie not be. I mean, I didn't mind seeing people being happy, but it's not that I want Sookie to be miserable, but I just felt like it was too much. Even with Jason and I hated that though. I've never been big on any of Jason's subplots, because I just don't get it. At first I thought they were going to say, it's because he's part fairy that people are just so fucking attracted to him, they have to have sex with him all the time. No, he's not even like part fairy.
No.
So then I was just like, I don't get it. It's not like he's that fucking attractive. I mean, sure, he's pretty, but it's like, come on. Everyone just has to sleep with him all the time.
Look where they live, and he is hot. So.
I just can't do it. Can't do it. But anyway, so yeah, True Blood, it's a wrap.
I'm glad you finished it. Yeah,
I had to finish it. You know, once it's like I've watched pretty much the whole series. I have to finish it. Maybe I'll get bored one day and I'll read the Sookie Stackhouse novels.
Well, since we're on the subject of TV at the moment, they released the trailer to AHS Cult, American Horror Story. Oh,
I was like, is this a gun thing? I thought you said cult. I was like, I don't know what this is.
They released a trailer and it looks pretty good. It's about a minute long, and it gives me an idea of why the election was involved with this story, but I don't think it has anything to do. Well, I mean, they didn't show a lot, but I think the election was a stepping point for them to work into the story they're actually going to be talking about. I don't think the election is going to be the forefront of what's going on. I just think it sort of ignites the story into what it's going to be.
Okay.
And I think that from what I saw, I think it looks really good, because it also looks like it's going to expand into multiple stories in different locations. And what I mean by that is like Murder House. There was obviously a lot of storylines, but it took place in a house and then next door. and then like, you know, Asylum, all in that hospital, and then, you know, Coven, all in that school. Yes, they did kind of go back and forth, but it looks like they're kind of jumping around a little bit, and it just looks like a show instead of just this story that just happens all in like one spot. I don't know. I just think that they'll have more options and more things to talk about when they branch out and do things in public, for God's sakes. So I'm excited about it.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet. All right, cool. We're looking forward to that. I guess we should get to the business of today.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm sounding bored because that's how my voice is.
We are going to finish the filmography of Wes Craven as far as what he's directed in his career, as well as a little bit of other movies he may have been involved with, whether it's producing or writing. But yeah, we wanted to finish off his list from where we left off, which was People Under the Stairs. And just from the IMDb page, he continued with a directed episode of a show called Nightmare Cafe. Now, I've never seen this show, but it had Robert Englund in it. I think it maybe lasted one season, but yeah, they
never even heard of this. Yeah. What year was it?
It was 1992.
Yeah, I was outside running around playing.
I'll post a picture on YouTube, but this is what the poster looks like. I'm showing Nate right now. Yeah, I've never heard of this.
Good old Robert Englund.
Yeah.
He really was, like, he's very debonair. Whoops, I'm hitting my mic. But yeah, he was a very debonair man without all the Freddy makeup on. Mm-hmm. I think so.
And then we go to 1994, New Nightmare.
Yeah.
And from last week, we've already talked about this, but, you know, obviously what a great movie. I'm glad he came back to do that. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, he decided to do a small little horror comedy called Vampire in Brooklyn in 1995.
God. Okay, so let's get into this.
Okay.
Because, and I'm pretty sure it was written by Charlie Murphy, wasn't it?
It's a good question.
Look at it really quick.
Let's see.
I thought it was written by Charlie Murphy.
So it says the story was Eddie Murphy as well as Charlie Murphy. Oh, okay. And Charlie Murphy did the screenplay.
Yeah, okay.
As well as Michael Lucker. Yes,
I don't know who that is.
There was a lot of folks involved, but yes, Charlie Murphy.
I just remember, like, when he passed away, I was like, oh, because somebody said, yeah, he wrote the screenplay. I was like, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. But so I think from the get-go, then, it was supposed to be a comedy. And I remember a lot of people saying, like, oh, Wes, they made it sound like he didn't know what to do with Eddie Murphy, so he was like, oh, well, he's a comedian, I'll just make it funny. I was like, no, I think it sounds like it was already going to be funny. You had two funny people writing the screenplay, and I doubt that Wes had so much input that he was like, oh yes, let's make everything that he says just funny, and let's just make everything over the top, and let's put him in the makeup like he was in Coming to America, and he can be the fat reverend, and he can be the crazy...
Well, yeah, I mean, they obviously use his strengths in this movie. You know, we obviously know Eddie Murphy as someone who likes to play different characters and wear the prosthetics and stuff, and so they let him do that a couple of times in the movie.
Oh, God. I will say that when he plays, I mean, and I think when I was a kid, I might not have even realized that it was him when he's the white guy.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew. I was really young.
Well, you know, he also played a white guy in Coming to America.
Yeah, I remember that old man. I knew that. But I don't think I didn't make that connection. Yeah. So it was good makeup. Whoever did the makeup, really, really good job there. And I will say, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Angela Bassett, because she's always done a lot of things across genres. And this was, it was either the same, maybe it was the same year, but it was around the same time she did Malcolm X. So she was doing a lot of things that were considered, you know, like legit film, drama. She was in the Jackson 5 TV movie. So she is an actress. And then she comes to do Vampire in Brooklyn. It's like, how did they get her in this movie? But she also did Critters 4. So I'm like,
she was all there. I think she was in another space movie. Was she in like Sphere or something? Not Sphere.
No, it was not even Horizon.
Supernova.
Yeah, but that was years later.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, in the beginning of her career, it was like up and down, where it seems like, oh, she's working with Denzel Washington, she's on a certain career track, but then here she is doing Vampire in Brooklyn, and she's the best actor in the movie. It's amazing.
So here's what I'll say about that too. For getting an all-black well, not all-black, but mostly all-black class in a horror comedy like this, they pick some really good players and people who are known to be funny. I mean, John Witherspoon alone, God. his character was not really that important, but he was funny, and
he's always John Witherspoon. I
always John him. Witherspoon. He's just hilarious. And then Alan Payne.
Oh, Alan Payne.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And Eddie Murphy.
What is he up to these days?
Eddie Murphy to me is still a funny actor. I just think that his choice in roles lately, I mean, back in the 90s, they pretty much gave him whatever, and he
did whatever he wanted.
Magic into it. It just all depends, I think, on the expectations on what people expected from Wes Craven, and as well as a vampire movie, and the fact that they have these top stars in it. But like I told you a couple weeks ago, if you're given a horror movie, be the best at it. Who cares what part you get? Act the shit out of it. And I think Angela Bassett, for one, acted the shit out of it.
Oh, she does an excellent job in this movie. I do not think that this movie is to the caliber of her talents, but she did it. And it baffles me. I'm not sure why. This movie is a very interesting movie. I don't know what it was supposed to be, and maybe people didn't know what it was supposed to be. Maybe the people involved, they didn't know what they wanted from it. I thought it was going to be scary.
Okay.
I expected Eddie Murphy to be scary, and there are a couple sequences where maybe he is kind of scary.
Well, they brought in the makeup and everything. And
he's more just very handsome, and he's doing the vampire thing. But other than that, I mean, it's a comedy. So if you're feeling nostalgic for the 90s, look it up. And yes, it's one of four horror-esque movies from the 90s that featured majority black cast. Yeah. So, and it's not awful. No, it's decent, especially for the time. I mean, Wes Craven directed it, so if you just want to have some fun,
it's a very used plot as well. I mean, Fright Night. Usually, Dracula movies or vampire movies usually do this. They want to find their lost love, or reincarnated or some kind of descendant to live forever, and that's basically what it was. And sometimes we need our movies too. We want a vampire movie.
Yes, I just think that they need to be done better.
This could have been done.
You deserve better, Rob.
No. I think there was a little bit of missed opportunity where they could upped the scare factor a little bit, or actually care. I mean, I don't know. The Caribbean accent wasn't really doing it for me as I rewatch it again.
It wasn't doing it, really.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But they had an opportunity. I thought it was, as long as it wasn't like a spoof, it was way above a spoof level.
No, it wasn't.
I think to a certain degree they did take it seriously. So
here and there.
So,
but it's and some of the effects were good, some of the effects were not. That snake. Get out of here with that snake. I did watch it a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I watched it very recently, so now I'm like a full-grown adult, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was scared of this.
So a couple of Wes Craven cameos. The woman who was in People Under the Stairs, the one who played Mommy, the redhead.
She's in this movie.
She had a small cameo when they were in the police station, and Maximilian hypnotized somebody to go crazy on the police so he can get away. Yeah. And it was really quick. She comes in and she was very religious, and then all of a sudden she grabs a knife or something and tries to lunge at someone. Wow. Yeah.
I do remember that, but I don't remember it being her.
And then two others. Maximilian gets his first taste of New York, literally, when he comes across these two gangsters or whatever, and he kills them behind a limo. It was Rod from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Was it?
Yeah. And Mitch Pegalet, I can never pronounce his last name. Pileggi, from Shocker. He was in it too. So it was those two who got killed first when he got onto the city. So, it's funny to see sometimes when they keep, working with like actors that they've been with before. So,
yeah. Very nice.
So that's Vampire in Brooklyn. Anything else with that one?
No.
Okay.
No, I wish it would have been better.
I did too. And then a year later, 1996, is Scream. Where, it's just one of those movies where you see him do movie after movie after movie, and then it's like genius work.
Boom.
And it's like, where were you this whole time? Like, how do you just come up with this stuff?
And obviously, it had a great screenplay by Kevin Williamson, but this was like, oh, yeah, back to form. He was killing it. Yeah. Won't get too much into it since I'm just going to be gabbing all next week about it.
Yeah, so next week we're going to go over the entire Scream franchise. So we're going to save these Scream movies for next week.
But still, this was the beginning of something big.
Yes. And this is, again, around the time where I was like, okay, it's Wes Craven. I'm definitely going to go see his stuff. This is going to be good. And sure enough, paid off. Mm-hmm. So after that, a year later, he did Scream 2, 1997. And I won't get too much into it, but it's like these sequels, I was actually pretty surprised that he came out with a sequel this quickly. Oh. Usually you give a movie a time to breathe, or sometimes you just need more time to make sure you just don't come out with the sequel for the sake of one. Mm-hmm. And he managed to do a really good job a year later. I don't even remember following horror movie news that closely to even know that this came out so quickly.
They didn't have the first one like that. It wasn't that kind of deal back then. The internet was still, at least commercial internet was so new. You couldn't get information quickly. It wasn't at your fingertips. You had to really figure that shit out. Yeah, I we'll talk about this next week, but I had a really good time seeing part 2. I had a good experience with that, so that was good. And then we jump all the way to 1997, 2 years later, or I'm sorry, 1999. I was like, what? Before we go to 99. So in 98, I'm pretty sure it was 98, that was when Wishmaster came out. Okay. And it was such a weird thing because it says Wes Craven Presents. I don't know what his involvement was with this movie. What do you do to present something? So you just put your name on it because you approve?
I could be wrong with this.
No, I want to hear this.
But here's my take on when I see stuff like that, and I think I was completely fooled because this was one of the first times I actually saw a presents where it wasn't even about him. Mm-hmm. Tim Burton does this sometimes too with Nightmare Before Christmas. People assume that that's his movie.
But he was a producer.
Yes, but he didn't direct it, and some people always forget that, and I think that's what this present is. Wes Craven Presents usually is somebody who not necessarily approves it, but it just has that thumb of approval. Mm-hmm. They'll usually be heavily involved as a producer. I don't know exactly how much into it, like if they're on set giving pointers or if they just provide money, but it's also an audience grab. They want people to know that it's endorsed by one of the greats. Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be written or directed by said person. So when you see a Wes Craven Presents, that means he put his sort of involvement in it. That's how I see stuff like that.
Okay. And just to defend Tim Burton, not that you were coming for him or anything. No. But The Nightmare Before Christmas is all based on something that he wrote and it's characters that he created.
Which is the Tim Burton's Presents. Yes.
But he doesn't present it, I don't think.
I don't know. I think it's Tim Burton's A Nightmare. He doesn't present it, but it's a Tim Burton's A Nightmare. So
gotta give love to him since it's his birthday too.
And I like Wishmaster too. I thought that movie was
really like it.
Really fun.
It's still like a B movie, but it is the best B movie. Yeah, it is. The effects are pretty much all practical makeup. It's really gross. Yeah, but it's done really well.
Well, I also love the idea about the whole be careful what you wish for. This is a clear example that wishes can go any way. And for the most part, anybody who grew up with Aladdin, genies are not like that. They, like leprechauns, are usually evil. They are not meant to be these whimsical, magical creatures that everybody loves.
Tricksters. They're not,
Exactly. They usually do what they have to do to be free, and that's their main goal. That's all they want. And I think in Wishmaster they were called jinns.
Yeah, they're jinns.
They're jinns.
That's probably the original myth that they come from. Yeah. So it's like Middle Eastern lore, but I really love this movie.
I did too. The guy under the makeup of the jinn.
It's like Andrew Divoff.
Yeah, Andrew Divoff. So he has a little bit of a horror sort of career.
He is really kind of over the top.
I remember him from A Low Down Dirty Shame with Jada Pinkett and Keenan. He was the villain off that.
That's right.
And so when I saw his name, I was like, oh, he's playing the genie. That's so crazy. But I loved him as the villain in that other movie too.
Yeah.
Robert Englund's in this.
Yes, he is.
I didn't.
There's
I
a lot of them.
about that.
Remember Kane Hodder's in here?
Really?
He's like it's like Robert Englund actually is a character, but Kane Hodder's a cameo.
Oh yeah,
Tony Todd is a cameo.
Tony Todd is in this too.
I feel like there's one other. I feel like there is another. Now I have to watch it again, but I feel like there's someone else who is. Yeah. Wait. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't remember which scene he was in, but there's another guy from that movie.
Well, is this?
He plays the drugstore clerk.
Okay.
Who comes out and is like, you need to get off my sidewalk, and then he like dies of cancer immediately. Do you remember that?
No,
so he's
I'll have to watch it again.
He's from the Phantasm series. He's like the older brother to the guy who's I don't know what happens.
Well, according to the cast, it does say Angus Scrimm.
I'm trying to remember.
Angus Scrimm is in the Phantasm.
Yeah,
it says he's the narrator.
Oh,
so if there's a voiceover, it was him
at the very beginning.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Oh my God, Vern Troyer was in this too, somewhere in this. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch this again.
Troyer, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I think the actor who plays the cop, the sexy cop.
Yeah,
I think he's from Aliens, the sequel.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of like really random. He's one of the soldiers. I mean, he has a character in Lines, but I'm pretty sure it's him.
Yeah,
because he's just always sexy.
But yeah, I did like this one, and it was a lot of fun. Some of it was kind of done in a jokey way, just the way that it was filmed. When I think one of the first wishes was, I wanted a lot of money, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to a plane just blowing up. I was like,
so terrible.
I saw this in theaters, and we could do nothing but laugh, but it wasn't meant to be funny, I don't think. But it was just the way the editing was. It was like, so I mean, this movie had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it had a lot of fun.
I get it.
It was good. But yes, so that was his first presents that I saw.
Yeah.
What came out in 99?
So 99 was a non-horror movie. It was Music of the Heart with Meryl Streep, and Angela Bassett was also in this too.
Oh, that's right. They joked that he cast Angela Bassett in this movie to apologize for A Vampire in Brooklyn.
That's probably it. No, it was, cute little family film. It's something you would never expect Wes Craven to direct. So for anyone listening, for the sake of Wes Craven, you just learned something today.
Like he had 30 some years of horror and rape. So he was like, I need a break. I need to work with Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
I mean, I would work with Meryl Streep too, so I get it. I've never seen this movie. I saw one scene from it, but I didn't watch it.
I don't remember too much about it, but he worked with a lot of kids, and I'm sure that in itself was work.
He was like, I'm going back to killing people.
Yes, which is what he did. Mm-hmm. The very next year, he did, in 2000, Scream 3.
Scream 3.
Yes, and we will talk about that later.
I have all kinds of shit to say about that.
And then he took a break, and I wonder what happened.
This was another year where he did
another Presents. Okay,
Dracula 2000.
So you brought up the fact that Gerard Butler was in this.
This was his very first movie.
No clue. I would have never thought back to be like, oh, Gerard Butler, he was Dracula, because I see him as this hairy,
he's not
dude, and he's like
he's kind of smooth.
I looked up a picture, and I was like, wow, okay,
yeah, Gerard. No, this movie's not a great movie.
I'm not a fan,
but I appreciate it for Gerard Butler. And I don't know why Vitamin C was in this movie. If y'all remember Vitamin C. If If y'all remember Vitamin C.
Oh my God, I love Vitamin C.
AKA Colleen Fitzpatrick.
Hey, whenever you can help a musician get into acting, you go to Wes Craven.
Don't know.
Look.
But that was pretty much the only... I think she was in other movies where she played herself.
She was in that teen movie, like Get Over It or whatever.
I don't know, that stupid ass movie.
Yeah.
But I just don't know why.
Right,
and also, one of my gripes with the vampire movies, whenever they do Dracula and they do his brides, usually they're so wasted. And I love his brides. I want to see them do stuff. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm kind of going off topic, but I don't really like Van Helsing. It was just way too much for me. But I love the brides in that movie because they have such a significant amount of screen time.
Yeah.
And this movie, it's like, not really. Mm-hmm. Usually that's just how it is. They're just there and then they get their heads chopped off and it's like, ooh, okay.
I don't remember too much about Dracula 2000. It's just, to me, it kind of catered towards this alternative sort of rock and roll type of... I don't know, it's kind of a teen movie in a way,
It was definitely a teen movie for the times.
It was meant to just be fun or something.
It was very, very much off of the Scream generation. I mean, like, anytime you look at horror movies from that era, all the posters look the same, where it's like, the cast is all lined up looking sexy and kind of mysterious. After Scream, that's what they did. And this movie is full of people. Just pretty much every single character is played by an actor that you know. Mm-hmm. Like Shane, what's his name, from A Walk to Remember in Salem.
No, Shane West was
Shane West is in this movie for like 30 seconds. Just cameoing it up. You know?
That's funny.
Like Omar Epps, he was in Scream 2 and then he's doing a cameo. It's like they're all just in this movie. And
I thought, okay, so I looked up the cast. I thought he was in this. Johnny Lee Miller was in this.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember him. Christopher Plummer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Esposito. There she is.
Jennifer Esposito.
Wow, they did have everybody
in this movie. They had a lot of people.
Wow, even Lachlan Monroe. Monroe was in, okay.
There's just...
Wow.
For no reason. It's just so many people in this movie, and I don't think it did well. I don't know.
Yeah, this is actually a really big cast.
Timing or whatever, but yeah, it's an okay movie. It's okay.
Do you remember if it was bloody, like super gory or gross?
Gory. I mean, I would say there's definitely lots of blood, but it's not anything I remember being horrific.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely, bites people, and there's blood that, sometimes when vampires get sloppy when they're eating people, and it's like, they, splurt some of the blood out as they're drinking. I'm like, waste not. But, yeah, it was just all right.
Yeah.
But, this is one of those things where he put his stamp of approval on it, Wes Craven Presents, so it's like, oh, okay, let's go check this shit out. And it was, a bit misleading. And then, did he do anything in 2001?
No.
Okay,
well, as far as directing, no.
In 2002? Because there was something he did in 2002.
Then he took a big break from directing. His next movie was in 2005.
Okay, so 2002 was the year that he did another Wes Craven Presents, the movie They.
Now, this is a shock to me because they have this movie as well as the next movie we're going to talk about that he directed as sort of this double pack on Blu-ray. You can buy it together, and I had no idea that he was involved with They. Now, this is one of those movies that I feel that if I watch again, I'll probably end up loving it.
Oh.
The first time I saw it, and from my memory, I don't like it. I thought it was not scary at all. I think it was one of those movies where they just continuously just tried to insinuate something was there, but never actually showing you anything.
Oh my gosh, Rob.
And it just was not a movie that entertained me throughout the whole thing. But again, this is when I saw it just one time. I can't even remember if it was at theaters or if I saw it at home. I just wasn't impressed.
So I saw this movie twice in the theater because it scared the fuck out of me.
Really?
I went to see it with a group of friends the first time, and we all held hands because we were so scared. Yes, you're right. This movie doesn't really show you, like, give you a good shot of the shark, as we'll say. You never really quite see what's going on, but something is definitely going on, and that is what fucked me up about this movie. You never get a good look at it.
Okay.
And it's there. And it's just, it was scary. I mean, it plays on the fears. If you guys haven't seen They, it's sort of like, you know, monsters under the bed and in the closet and in the dark. You know, you're not safe in the dark, and playing on childhood fears and night terrors. There's this group of people who had night terrors as children, and now as adults, they're having these recurring night terrors again, and they feel like something is coming back to collect them, essentially. And it scared me. I mean, these are like sort of like demonic entities, and demons just scare the fuck out of me. They scare me, and it worked for me. So much so I went back like a week later, and I took one of my best friends to see this, and during the course of the movie, she was crawling up the side of my body like a tree.
That's
because
funny.
She was so scared. She was like, "No, oh my God!" And she was like, "But they're in the light, right? So it's okay." It's like, no, movie's over.
I don't know. I think another reason was that I wasn't a big fan of the final girl.
Oh, well, no, and I will give you that.
I wasn't really impressed with her, either her performance or just her in general. I don't know what it was, but just from my knowledge.
I will give you that. I feel kind of bad saying it. I don't know why. But yeah, she looks like the Oshkosh Bagosh.
Stop.
I'm just being for real. But yes, there was something about her overall. It was, I don't know. I think I liked the supporting players more.
This is going on my list. I really do want to watch this again.
You can borrow mine.
Okay, yes, I will watch this again because I'm looking at it and it looks interesting. I'm not exactly sure what Wes Craven's involvement was with it, but it's got people that I love. Mark Blockus is in it, you know, from Buffy fame. Ethan Embry, always a big fan of his. And John Abrams from Scary Movie. I forgot he was in this. That's
cameo
funny.
magic.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think I am going to give this another try and see if, my opinion changes. But, yeah, that was They. So, you do approve of this?
I approve of it. It was a really fun time. I've watched it since then. I mean, I bought it from Amoeba. Because I was like, oh my God, look, it's $2.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. And it doesn't scare me as much anymore because I do know what's going to happen, but I still appreciate the fuck out of it. I like those movies where you just don't quite see it.
Okay.
But you see enough.
Yeah.
You see enough where it's like, oh, this is some bullshit and I got to get out of here. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
Good
well,
times.
In 2005, he came out with 2 movies, I guess, to compensate for his big break. The first one is Cursed with Christina Ricci.
So wait, is this one in the double pack with They?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, they put Red Eye in the double pack? That makes no sense.
Yeah, you can buy Cursed and They at this, in the same pack,
I wouldn't insult They.
Yeah.
With that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not
But yes, Curse was 2005. And yes, we've talked about this a little bit.
I will say 2 things. I'm learning new tactics in my human existence. So I think I did say it once, but the scene where Maya is in the parking structure, I do think that's a good sequence.
Okay.
It was the scariest part of the movie for me. I mean, when she's like trying to hide under the car and moving quietly, that was done really well. And when she's like covering her mouth and you see the feet, just the feet, that was good.
Yes.
But then when you see the whole werewolf, it's just too much. It just looked ridiculous. When she's in the elevator, I think they could have done that a little differently. Like, I feel like if the werewolf had dropped down, like, because it went upstairs, I feel like that would have been a big shock.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't have been ready for it. But I felt like that was a good scene. It probably should have been at the beginning of the movie, though. They probably should have opened with that.
Yeah.
We all know that there was a bunch of trouble with this movie, recasting, rewriting. Apparently, and I just learned this recently, it was supposed to be a siege film originally.
Siege, what do you mean?
It means like a takeover, like you're being surrounded and infiltrated from from outside. So like a war film. So like if you're stuck in a fort and then people are coming and they're like invading.
Okay.
So to me, that was like, oh, so apparently there was like multiple werewolves and they were infecting the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
So I think that could have been interesting.
Yeah. See, I wonder if it's more expensive to do practical effects versus CGI. I'm actually really surprised that Wes Craven, or just anybody involved, was okay with using CGI transformation as well as seeing the full-blown wolf in attack mode. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie, but was there ever a scene where it was a practical werewolf?
Yes.
Okay. Because most of the memory I have of it,
well,
it
the
was
one where
CGI.
it's flipping off the camera, that's a practical werewolf suit.
But I've seen some werewolf movies around that time. One in particular is Bad Moon. And Bad Moon had the live-action movie Dennis the Menace in it, Mason Gamble. And yeah, it's so under the radar, but I'm going to bring this up on a different episode because it's one of those movies that nobody is talking about, but everybody loves.
Bad Moon.
It was so good. It's such a small, compact story. They don't really get too outlandish with it, but it's just one of those movies that you don't see very often as far as from a werewolf storyline point of view.
Yeah.
But I believe they use a lot more practical effects and more of a scary design of the wolf. I mean, this wolf in Cursed looked like you can literally pet it and like it would purr at you. I mean, it was just so smooth and clean.
The ears were just so ridiculous. They looked like a rabbit. It looked like a rabbit that had, was pissed off.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and when they would show, just like when it pulled Shannon Elizabeth out of the car, like it just showed the head quick. That was okay. That stuff. But once you show this ridiculous looking puffy werewolf, it's just too much. And the design did look kind of slightly different when it's the CGI werewolf versus the practical werewolf. And I mean, they would show it in full form both ways. So it was going back and forth too much. I think they didn't stick to a design.
So you might know the answer to this more than I would because I would have to rewatch it again. But this is one of those movies that was, I guess, kind of a comedy in itself, but they didn't spend too much time on like kills and I wonder if this was one of those psychological movies that Wes Craven does where it's more of like a metaphor for something, as if Christina Ricci just didn't want to be adult or take responsibility, or she was just tired of taking care of her brother. Something was going on because we watched these two slowly transform into different people. And I think like Eisenberg himself, he enjoyed what he was gaining from having these powers, but Christina Ricci had more problems with it. And then they decided to also do a mystery about who the main wolf was. So, I mean, to me, it just didn't seem like one of those movies where it was meant to be like a scary, thriller. It just, I think there was something going on that he was trying to do, and I'm just not seeing it.
I think, and once I just read about the siege element, if they had explored it more of a sort of like a Lost Boys story, where like someone's becoming a vampire and it's like, are they going to embrace it or not? And maybe if they had ended it, because they give it this ridiculously sugar sweet happy ending, maybe they should have ended it where someone was like, I'm a werewolf and I like it. Focusing on multiple people being werewolves. I mean, it focused on the brother and sister, but it was just too hokey. I don't think they should have been the brother and sister. Like originally they weren't, and that probably would have been better.
Here's the thing about werewolf movies, and because of the slow transformation only happening on a 1 or 3 nights a month, there's obviously a huge, Ginger Snaps is the same thing. There's this huge metaphor about just growing up and becoming a woman or a man or whatnot, and versus vampires where it's kind of different. It's more about hunger and desire and lust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when I think of werewolves, I usually get scared from those type of movies versus other monsters, because usually when you change, they have no boundaries, and they're disgusting too. Like they're vicious. If you know, it's not like getting scratched and like, oh my god, I'm gonna change. It's like when you are eaten by one of these creatures, like it's gross, it's scary, it's creepy. Yeah. They're quick, and there was just hardly any of that. I mean, that very first scene with Shannon Elizabeth, like the woman literally gets cut in half and he throws her body on the, like, that to me should have been a good like hint as to what to expect, and then it just turned into this. But like, you don't even.
I mean, for the American audiences, we didn't see that. No. We didn't. I mean, a lot of this was. I feel like a lot of it was out of Wes's control. The control he had was to walk away from the film when they were like, "We need to redo everything." You know, he could have like walked away, but once it came to editing, I don't think he had any say in that, because the editing is terrible. Like just that blackout sequence where I can hear Maya being killed, but then I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
So here's the other thing about it, and you know, like I can understand this from a money point of view, but you're coming across an audience who, yes, is kind of veering off the whole Scream thing, and we're still kind of keeping horror intact, but we need to bring in new blood, because not many of the horror fans, I guess, around the mid-2000s were impressed with what was coming out. And they kept, you know, shooting out these horror movies that were PG-13. And you're taking a creature that's not meant to be in a PG-13 world. Wolves are not meant to be fluffy and careful and, you know, calculated. They're usually just out of control. Yeah. And you put that in a PG-13 setting where you want these teenagers to come and have fun, it just doesn't work. And this movie is an example of that. I love the cast, and I said this before. At the time, they could not have picked a better. Well, they probably could, but I'm just saying
they did.
I think originally. They gathered a really good group of actors who were very popular at that time, and I just wish that they could have. I mean, if anything, they could have made it kind of like Scary Movie, where that movie was rated R, but it was funny as hell, and still had the, you know, the good scenes. It was just such a missed opportunity.
It was a whole missed opportunity.
Yeah. So that's cursed. But in the same year, I think that he came out with another good, with a good one to, you know, overcompensate, and that was Red Eye.
Yeah.
Now, this movie is very to the point, very simple. There's not too much about it. Practically anybody could have directed this movie, and I think that brings up a tidbit as to not many people knew that this is a Wes Craven film. Yeah. There's not really any familiar actors who have worked with him in this. I mean, it just kind of just came out of nowhere, and let's put Wes Craven as the director. Let me see who wrote this, because I'm actually curious who wrote this as well. So it was this man named Carl Ilsworth. So I'm not too familiar with that particular guy, but yeah, Wes Craven just directed it, and that was it.
It's not a horror movie, it's more of a thriller, but it was done really well. I remember when this came out, and you know, marketing, a lot of people felt like at the beginning of the trailer they were watching like When Harry Met Sally almost, and then suddenly it changes, and I think that is probably what grabbed people, because the first 20 minutes of the movie, 25, you're just like,
what is going on?
Watching these two people getting to know each other, and it's like, okay, and then it changes, and it's done really well. I mean, I think I don't know if anyone could have done this. It probably would have looked different depending on who did it, but you know, the actors, they killed it. And Cillian, I don't know how you say his name. I say Killian.
I say Cillian.
I don't know, because then he sounds silly. Killian, because he kills people. He's crazy. Yeah, Killian Murphy. He's creepy. And
I love his name. His name in the movie is Jackson Ripner.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I love that.
Subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. Cillian Murphy was a great choice for this role, because he was kind of suave in there, you know, coming to an aid in the line they were at the terminal. I thought that was a nice scene. And then, yeah, he was very flirty. He kind of knew a lot of stuff about her, or, you know, seemed to have stuff in common. And then he just kind of lets you have it, but he says it in a way that he can say it on a plane and not create a scene.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is skill when you've got that sort of...
It was like, oh God, it was just such an interesting claustrophobic experience. And I don't think Wes had ever done anything like that. He's always done things where people have space to move around and they're running and they're, you know, trying to get away from something. But this was really different. I
think another thing too, and it's cool that you bring this up, is, you know, when you are on the setting of an airplane, they usually try and involve the entire plane and get you so many supporting characters. Everyone has to fit into some trope and they're somehow involved or whatever. And yes, there were one or two people that kind of played a part because she obviously tried to get help, but it wasn't about the plane. It was about the two of them, their relationship, and him getting her to do his bidding.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is that the whole plot of the story, like, it doesn't fit in horror at all. It's very political in a way. I don't know the exact reasoning for it, but I just know it has something to do with somebody who was very important in power.
Oh,
and they
right,
needed
that's
to,
right.
And there was an assassination attempt. So,
well, even like another way to take it, I mean, it reminds me of like someone who's in an abusive relationship.
Okay, fair enough.
And, you know, people are just unaware. It's like you can be in a crowded setting, you can be around all of these people and nobody has any idea what's happening to you.
So many
even if
hints
you
to
try to like help me, like you're looking at someone pleading with your eyes, whatever the case may be. It's scary thinking about that because you're among people but you're isolated.
Yeah, I obviously do not root for the bad guy to win in certain situations, but I do appreciate when you write a story and execute it in a way where these villains are not stupid. Because obviously they have to lose at some point, but lose because the protagonist prevails, not because the villain sucks or messes up or does something stupid. I'm trying to think of a point in the movie if her feminine wiles caught him off guard. And I don't think there was a scene like that or a moment where he kind of dropped the ball. I think that she just outsmarted him when it came to...
Yeah, I think there was a scene where it was like he saw that she tried, and that's when he like...
Oh, like, yes, when he headbutted her. That was crazy.
It's like she did something, I don't know if she did something where she was like, okay, that's gonna work, and then he was like, really?
Yeah.
You think you just got something slick past me? But no, it's a very uncomfortable situation to think. Like because I don't know what that feels like, but to see someone going through that, it's unnerving.
I think also when you're in a situation like that, especially because she knew that her dad was in danger at the same time, it's like you're in this plane.
Brian Cox?
Brian Cox. You have no control over what goes on a plane, and that's what I don't like about flying in general. It's not like stop the plane, I need to get off. It's like you have to wait this out. You have to sit next to this guy and you have to do what he says, otherwise you don't know what's going on land. And I thought that was a really horrifying thing to watch when you're watching this movie. And it was just so calculated. It just came out of nowhere. Red Eye, like, I've only done Red Eye once, and eventually I did get on the plane, but it is circumstantial. It's not like a guarantee you'll get a seat. Like, it's just funny how everything just kind of like worked out.
Really?
And yeah, well, I mean, that's again my experience.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
I mean, I took a red eye, but I definitely had a seat.
Yeah,
I paid for that ticket.
But yeah, I mean, this is again a movie you wouldn't think Wes Craven does, and it's not necessarily on more of the horror side of it. So it just really depends on what type of movie you guys like in general. And I think that Red Eye may surprise you.
Yeah.
And I endorse it. I recommend it. It's good.
Great movie.
Yeah,
it's not a
short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, good deal.
So I'm going to let you talk about this next title here, 2006.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I said I was going to, but I didn't get to watch his part of the anthology, Paris Je t'aime, which he does this. It's like a love. They're all love stories.
So this is a series.
His is it's a movie.
Oh, but it's an anthology movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so he did.
So I think
one
it
of
had
the stories.
like 4 short stories, and it was Emily Mortimer, and oh god, what is that actor's name? He's always kind of creepy. I can't think of his name right now, but he's always creepy.
Okay.
He has like these eyes that are like yellow. And it's a ghost story. I think someone goes to a grave to talk to their deceased lover or spouse, and so it's not a horror. It's not a horror at all. But I thought it was still cool. I was like, oh, it has like a supernatural element, and so I still want to check it out. And I like Emily Mortimer. I think she's a great actress.
Well, I would be interested in seeing this. It seems if it's got a little bit of supernatural element to it, I'm down.
I can't speak for the other 3 stories or however many there are, but they're all love stories. That's what they're. So, if you're feeling like you are in the mood for some sweet, sweet love,
check it out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he took a small break in between that as far as directing. So from 2006 to 2010, he comes out with another attempt for the teen generation with My Soul to Take. And, so the first time I saw this movie, it was sad to say, even though he did direct it, it's beneath Wes Craven.
He wrote and directed it.
Yes. I don't know exactly what was going on. And I'm not trying to, trash on the late director, but he's better than this. So there had to have been some reason why this movie turned out the way that it did. And I want to say that Wes Craven, I think, was trying to make a movie more about the underlining meaning of the story versus the actual execution of this slasher 1-by-1 aspect. I think there was just a reason for him to come out with such a unique storyline. Because, I can think of 1 or 2 movies that are kind of similar to this, but done this way. Never seen it before. And I think that he tried to tap into just this really interesting idea, which is a man dies, becomes an urban legend, and on the same night he dies, 7 other children are born in the same night. And apparently they are all linked to this killer where he wants to take them all out. Again, I can think of 1 or 2 titles very similar to this.
Yeah, it does sound familiar.
Yeah, but I think it was sort of in the same vein as Faculty. I think he tried to get a bunch of unknown kids, put them on screen, give them their shot, put them in the limelight, give them a horror movie to have some fun in, and, kind of bring back the slasher sort of, movie again. But it just wasn't scary, and the kids were horrible. I don't think there was really one likable character in the movie, especially relatable character. But, it had a couple of people that I do enjoy watching now.
Yeah.
Who was in this movie?
Frank Grillo.
Yeah, Frank Grillo was in this, and Danae Guerrera, who is now on Walking Dead.
She's gonna be Black Panther.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Black Panther. Yes, I love that. And and Max Thoreau, who was famous for Bates Motel. He plays Norman Bates' brother.
Oh.
In the series, he was in it the whole time, and he's wonderful in it.
Okay.
And if anything, he's really good in this one too, because he sort of plays the central focus of the 7 kids who are linked to this guy. Do you remember Nightmare 4? Nightmare 4. Every time somebody died, a piece of them sort of went into Alice, and she took on sort of their personality.
Right.
That sort of same thing happened in this one, which sort of was like, oh, he must be the killer because he's the one collecting them and all that. And so that called on Max to act like everyone else in the film, so it gave him more multiple roles to kind of play. And I think that he did a wonderful job playing these characters. In particular, there was this scene where he's with his best friend, sort of the emo one of the group. He's in school, and he's sort of breaking down what's going on. I think maybe 1 or 2 of them had died at this point, and throughout the whole movie, they give you this idea that he's somewhat kind of crazy. Like, he's hearing voices. He doesn't know what to do. He's got this past of, being the actual son of the killer. Even though he is part of the 7 who were born on the same day, they want to say that he was the actual kid. And so obviously that gene, or that crazy gene, has passed on to him. So as he's imitating and picking up all these characteristics, there's this scene where he's in front of his best friend, and all of a sudden he starts mimicking him. Literally. Like, every single move, gesture, word comes out of his friend's mouth, he's doing it at the exact same time. It's like a mirror image. And from a technical and filming point of view, just the accuracy on those two, saying the exact same lines, doing the same gestures, in the same literal, like... I was like, this is a really good scene. And I was just really impressed on how, like, quick they were to get it on point with every single line and gesture that they were saying. It lasted for, like, almost a minute and a half. And other than that, the killer was boring. You never really got to see, like, him as a whole. He was just this, like, messy person. There was sort of a twist, but it was very obvious as to what was going on. So, again, knowing Wes Craven, it's 2010. You can't come out with a movie like this. Yeah. So it just kind of failed. But I rewatched it, and I actually enjoyed it a little bit more. There were a lot more creepy factors to it. And again, I was just impressed with some of the acting from some of the players. But I appreciate it a little bit more story-wise. It just wasn't as entertaining as it could have been.
Okay.
And I think if it came from a different director, it might have gotten the benefit of the doubt. But Wes Craven should not have done this. So that's my thing.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but yeah.
So that was that. And then his last directorial is Scream 4.
Which we will get into all the way next week. But it's interesting that was his very last thing that he left us with.
Altogether, 29 directed titles, give or take, an episode or two. But I would say overall, what a wonderful man.
Yes.
Some
rapey stuff going on in that writing there, Wes, but I've enjoyed it. I think he made us think about a lot of aspects of life from a horror sense, but it's all very interesting. His career's been up and down, and it was a lot of fun discovering things that I didn't know anything about. So,
yeah. Well, that concludes the filmography of Wes Craven. We are going to close this out with our Bitch Really of the week. Nate, the Fool, is going to take this one. What you got?
Okay. So, we'll talk about this more next week, but I'm going to do Scream 3.
Okay.
This isn't even, directed at a character. This is more directed at, production. Gail goes into the basement of this mansion, and she's looking for some people. And she sees an arm sticking out of a coffin. I think it has a little bit of blood. And she opens it, and then the arm falls into the coffin, and there's Roman.
Yeah.
And he has a knife in his chest, and it's blood everywhere, and he's dead. And then, she bumps into Parker Posey, and they get scared, and they run away. Never, ever, in the entire series, do you come up on a dead body. The characters are always killed on screen. I was insulted.
It's never one of these let me just stash the body where everybody can find him and it's jump scare and yada yada. That was something super new.
So, bitch, really? You thought that you could pull that over on me? I don't think so. So as soon as I saw that, I just didn't trust it. And I was still young when I watched that movie, so I was just kind of pissed. I was like, no, this doesn't happen. We always see the people die. And even when they killed another character, and it was kind of I saw her get stabbed, but now she's just being dragged away. Which apparently she was supposed to be another killer in an alternate script. But anyway, yeah, I didn't appreciate that. That little oh, I found the body. Oh my God, bitch.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Very cheap, very poor.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
So,
I get it. Good one.
Thanks.
Bitch, really.
Bitch. All right, guys. Well, thanks once again. Another long one. Didn't think we would stretch it out this long since we only had 5 movies to talk about.
I know. I was like, this is going to be an easy episode.
I felt like, we have so much time. I'm going to say lots of stuff because got lots of time.
But that's what happens. Me and Nate, like, once we get going, sometimes it's hard to stop. We just keep talking and going in.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Just pause it and then finish the rest later.
Hopefully it was fun for you guys. Thank you so much.
And then come back next week. Like we said, we'll be doing Scream. So we'll dissect all of that lots more. And I'll have all kinds of bullshit to say because that's how I go. And then that'll conclude our Wes Craven month.
Yeah.
Oh, and also I said it earlier, but yes, this coming Friday is Tim Burton's birthday, so I didn't want to overlook him. So happy birthday, Tim Burton.
Happy birthday.
And we'll catch you next time on Bitch, I Ain't Scared.